Jake Morrison walked through the busy halls of Zephyrian Trade Station with his travel bag over his shoulder. The place was huge, bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around him. Some had 4 arms, others had scales instead of skin, and a few looked like they were made of light itself. He checked his watch. His transport to the mining colonies would leave in 30 minutes. Jake was a simple man with a simple job. He surveyed planets for mining companies looking for valuable metals and minerals. It was dangerous work, but it paid well, and Jake liked being alone on empty worlds. The security checkpoint stood ahead of him. It looked like a doorway made of blue crystal that glowed softly. Jake had been through these scanners before at other stations. They were supposed to check if you were carrying weapons or dangerous items. Simple stuff. Jake stepped through the scanner just like he always did. But this time something went wrong. The blue light turned red. Then it started flashing. The crystal walls of the scanner began to shake and make loud humming sounds. Jake stopped walking and looked around, confused. "What's happening?" he asked. Nobody in particular. Other travelers stopped and stared. A group of tall, thin aliens with gray skin backed away from the scanner. Their big black eyes were wide with fear. Jake had never seen aliens look scared before. Keth Moore, the station's security chief, came running over. He was a Valorian, which meant he had 6 arms and skin that looked like metal. His 3 eyes were all focused on the scanner's display screen. "This is impossible," Keth Moore said in his mechanical voice. "The scanner must be broken." But the scanner wasn't broken. Its ancient computer voice suddenly spoke in the common galactic language. The words echoed through the entire terminal area. "Biometric anomaly detected. Subject has survived direct encounter with Apex-class deity. Security level, impossible. Repeat, impossible." The terminal went quiet. Every alien in the area stopped what they were doing and stared at Jake. Some of them started backing away from him like he was dangerous. Others just stood there with their mouths open. Jake looked around at all the scared faces. "Hey, is there a problem here? I just want to catch my transport." Dr. Lisa Warren heard the commotion from her office on the other side of the terminal. She was a human scientist who studied alien cultures for a living. She had been working at the station for 3 years and had never heard the scanner make that announcement before. Lisa ran through the halls as fast as she could. When she reached the security area, she saw Jake standing in the middle of a crowd of terrified aliens. Keth Moore was talking rapidly into his communication device, calling for backup and scientists. "What did the scanner say exactly?" Lisa asked Keth Moore. "It detected an Apex God encounter. Survival level impossible," the security chief replied. His metal hands were shaking. "But that cannot be true. Nothing survives an Apex God." Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. She had studied galactic history and knew about Apex Gods. They were beings of incredible power that could destroy entire star systems if they wanted to. Most aliens believed they were myths, stories told to scare children. But the old records suggested they were real. "Sir, I need to talk to him," Lisa said to Keth Moore. "I'm human like he is. Maybe I can help figure this out." Keth Moore nodded quickly. "Yes, please. Take him to holding room 7. But be careful. If the scanner is right, this human is more dangerous than anything we have ever seen." Lisa walked over to Jake, who was still looking confused and a little annoyed. "Hi there, I'm Dr. Lisa Warren. I'm human too. Can you come with me? We need to sort this out." Jake shrugged. "Sure, I guess. But I really need to catch that transport. I have a job waiting for me." As they walked through the station, aliens moved out of their way. Some whispered to each other in languages Lisa didn't understand. Others just stared at Jake like he was some kind of monster. "What's an Apex God?" Jake asked as they walked. Lisa stopped walking for a moment. "You don't know?" "Never heard of them." Lisa thought carefully about how to explain. "They're supposed to be the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Ancient creatures that can reshape reality itself. Most people think they're just stories. So why does everyone think I met one? That's what we need to figure out." They reached holding room 7. It wasn't really a prison cell, more like a comfortable hotel room with no windows. Jake sat down on the couch and put his bag on the floor. "This is crazy," Jake said. "I'm just a surveyor. I look at rocks and dirt for a living. The most dangerous thing I've ever fought was a broken heater on a cold planet." Lisa sat down across from him. "Tell me about your last job. Where did you go?" Jake thought for a moment. "It was a planet in the Kepler 442 system. Dead world, no life at all, just rocks and strange weather. I spent about 6 months there doing geological surveys." Lisa pulled out her tablet and started searching galactic databases. What was strange about the weather? Well, the storms seemed to come out of nowhere, and they felt, I don't know how to explain it. They felt angry, like something was mad at me for being there. But that's impossible, right? Weather can't be angry. Lisa's tablet beeped. She looked at the screen, and her face went pale. "Jake, what was the planet's designation number?" Let me think. It was Kepler 442b. "Why?" Lisa stared at her tablet screen. According to the galactic database, Kepler 442b had another name. The aliens called it Nethys Prime. And according to the records, Nethys Prime had been declared off-limits to all galactic travel for over 300 years. The reason was simple. An apex god named Vorthak the World Ender lived there. "Jake," Lisa said quietly, "I think we need to have a very long talk." Kethmore locked down the entire station within an hour. No ships could leave or arrive until they figured out what was happening with the human. The security chief had sent emergency messages to every major government in the galaxy. Scientists, historians, and military experts were already on their way to the station. Jake sat in his comfortable room, eating alien food that tasted like chicken and trying to understand what was going on. Lisa sat across from him, her tablet full of information about Nethys Prime and the apex god who lived there. "So you're telling me I spent 6 months camping next to some kind of space monster?" Jake asked, taking another bite of the purple fruit that Lisa had brought him. "Not a monster exactly, more like a god. A real god with the power to destroy planets." Lisa scrolled through the historical records on her tablet. According to these files, Vorthak claimed Nethys Prime as his territory 300 years ago. The Galactic Council declared it forbidden space. No one has been allowed to go there since. Jake shook his head. "That's impossible. I got my mission assignment from Morrison Mining Corporation. They're based on Earth. They wouldn't send me somewhere dangerous without telling me." "Show me your mission files," Lisa said. Jake pulled out his own tablet and handed it to her. Lisa read through the documents carefully. Everything looked normal. Morrison Mining had hired Jake to survey an unnamed planet for mineral deposits. The coordinates matched Nethys Prime exactly, but there was no mention of any danger. "Either your company made a huge mistake or they didn't know," Lisa said. "Earth isn't part of the Galactic Council yet. You might not have access to our warning databases." A soft chime sounded and the door opened. Kethmore entered with another human, a man in a military uniform. Jake recognized him immediately. "Sam Parker." Jake stood up and shook hands with his old friend. "What are you doing here?" Commander Sam Parker looked tired from his long journey through space. "I came as soon as I got the message from the station. Jake, we need to talk about your last mission." Lisa looked confused. "You knew about this?" Sam sat down and pulled out a classified folder. Not exactly, but Jake's mission wasn't as simple as everyone thought. He opened the folder and spread papers across the table. Earth's Deep Space Command has been tracking strange energy readings from the Kepler 442 system. For 20 years, Jake stared at his friend. "You're saying you knew it was dangerous?" "We knew something unusual was there, but we had no idea what." Sam pointed to a chart showing energy patterns. These readings suggested some kind of advanced technology or natural phenomenon. When Morrison Mining requested permission to survey the system, we thought it was a good chance to investigate. "So you used me as a spy," Jake said. He didn't sound angry, just tired. More like an advanced scout. "You're the best surveyor we have, Jake. If anyone could handle whatever was out there, it was you." Sam looked at Lisa. "What exactly did he encounter?" Lisa told Sam everything she had learned about apex gods and Vorthak. Sam listened quietly, occasionally asking questions. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "Jake, tell me about the storms again," Sam said finally. Jake closed his eyes and tried to remember. They were unlike anything I've ever seen. The wind felt alive, like it was testing me. Sometimes I felt like something was watching me, but when I looked around, there was nothing there. Did you ever see anything? Hear voices? Well, Jake hesitated. Sometimes during the worst storms, I thought I heard someone talking, but I figured it was just the wind playing tricks on me. I was alone for 6 months. People start hearing things when they're isolated that long. Sam and Lisa exchanged looks. "What did the voices say?" Lisa asked gently. "It's hard to remember. Something about strength and persistence. Questions about why I kept working when everything was trying to stop me. I thought it was just my mind dealing with stress." The door chimed again. This time a being made of pure light floated into the room. Jake had never seen anything like it before. The creature looked like a person-shaped aurora, constantly shifting between different colors. "Greetings," the light being said in a voice that sounded like music. "I am Luminara of the Ethereal Collective. I have come to study this remarkable human." Kethmore followed the ethereal being into the room. "Luminara is one of the galaxy's leading experts on apex entities. She has agreed to help us understand what happened." Luminara floated closer to Jake, who tried not to stare. "Human Jake Morrison, may I scan your mind? I promise it will not hurt." Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded. "I guess so." Luminara's light grew brighter for a moment. Jake felt a warm, tingling sensation in his head, like someone was gently touching his thoughts. After a few seconds, the ethereal being floated back. "Fascinating," Luminara said. "This human's mind shows clear signs of prolonged exposure to apex-level psychic energy. But instead of the expected damage, I see adaptation." "What does that mean?" Sam asked. "Most beings who encounter an apex god suffer immediate mental breakdown. Their minds cannot process such overwhelming power. But this human's brain has adapted. It has built mental barriers and coping mechanisms that allowed him to function normally, while exposed to godlike presence." Lisa leaned forward. "Are you saying Jake is special somehow?" "All humans may be special," Luminara replied. "Your species has only recently achieved space travel, yet this one survived something that would destroy civilizations with millions of years of development." Jake felt overwhelmed. "I still don't understand. I just did my job. I collected rock samples and made maps. How is that special?" Luminara's light pulsed thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is exactly why you survived. An apex god like Vorthak has existed for eons. He has seen countless beings flee in terror or attack in desperation. But you simply continued working. You treated his presence as merely another environmental challenge to overcome." Sam pulled out another file from his folder. "Jake, I need to show you something. These are the mineral samples you sent back to Earth during your mission." Jake looked at the analysis reports. "Yeah, I found some interesting deposits, nothing too unusual though." "Jake, these aren't just mineral deposits. According to our scientists, some of these materials don't exist anywhere else in the known galaxy. You found things that should be impossible." Lisa checked her database. "He's right. Several of these elements have never been cataloged before. If Vorthak was actively helping you, or testing you," Luminara added, "apex gods do not simply destroy. They evaluate. They test worthiness. It appears Vorthak spent 6 months studying human nature through you." Jake stood up and walked to the small window in his room. Through it, he could see the busy space traffic around the station. Ships from a dozen different worlds were arriving, all wanting to study the human who had survived the impossible. "What happens now?" he asked. Kethmore's 3 eyes focused on him. "Now, human Jake Morrison, the galaxy wants to know everything about your species, and Vorthak the World Ender is beginning to wake up." The conference room was packed with beings from across the galaxy. Jake had never seen so many different types of aliens in one place. The Zephyrian council members looked like tall blue trees with faces. The Valorian Empire representatives had their 6 arms crossed in formal poses. Even the mysterious ethereal collective had sent 3 light beings to observe. Jake sat at the center of the room feeling very small and very human. Lisa sat next to him for support, while Sam and Keth Moore presented their findings to the assembled delegates. "The evidence is clear," Sam said, pointing to a large screen showing Jake's mission data. Jake Morrison worked on Nethys Prime for 6 months without knowing an apex god lived there. He not only survived but completed his entire survey mission. Kain, Zephyrian counselor, rustled his branch-like arms. "This is unprecedented. In our 3,000 years of recorded history, no being has survived direct contact with an apex entity." "Perhaps the human never actually encountered Vorthak," suggested a Valorian general. "The god might have been sleeping or absent." Luminara floated forward, her light pulsing with disagreement. "I have examined the human's memories and mind patterns. He was under constant observation by Vorthak for the entire duration of his stay. The apex god was very much awake and very much interested." Jake raised his hand like he was in school. Excuse me, can I ask a question?" The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at him. "What exactly is an apex god? I mean, I know they're powerful, but what do they actually do?" An elderly ethereal being named Cosmos spoke up. "Apex gods are remnants from the early universe, when reality itself was still forming. They possess power beyond comprehension. A single apex god could reshape a solar system or destroy an entire civilization with a thought." "But why would they do that?" Jake asked. "They don't usually destroy for pleasure," Cosmos explained. "Apex gods are guardians of cosmic balance. When a species or civilization becomes too destructive or grows too powerful too quickly, an apex god might intervene to maintain universal stability." Lisa leaned forward. "So they're like cosmic police?" "More like cosmic judges," Luminara corrected. "They test species to see if they are worthy of continued existence and growth." Sam activated another display showing energy readings from the Kepler 442 system. "According to our deep space monitors, Vorthak has been increasingly active since Jake left Nethys Prime. Energy levels are rising dramatically." A Kroger military commander, a being that looked like a walking tank with tentacles, spoke in a harsh voice. "This human may have provoked the apex god. His species could be a threat to galactic stability." Jake stood up, feeling defensive. "Hey, I didn't do anything wrong. I just did my job." "That may be exactly what impressed Vorthak," said Cosmos, thoughtfully. "Tell us, human Jake, what did you think about during those 6 months alone?" Jake thought carefully. "I thought about home mostly. My family, my friends. I thought about the work I was doing and how the minerals I found might help people. When the storms got bad, I just focused on getting through them one day at a time." "Did you ever consider giving up?" asked a Zephyrian scientist. "Of course. The storms were terrible and sometimes I thought I might die. But giving up wasn't really an option. People were counting on me to finish the job." Luminara's light grew, brighter. "Remarkable. Most beings, when faced with overwhelming force, either flee or attack. Humans appear to have a third option: endure." Sam pulled up another file. "We've been studying Jake's psychological profile since this all started. His brain shows unusual patterns when dealing with stress. Instead of panic or shutdown responses, he adapts and continues functioning." "Is this common among humans?" asked the Valorian general. "We think so," Lisa replied. "Human history is full of people surviving impossible situations through determination and creativity. We call it stubborn persistence." Cosmos floated closer to Jake. "During your time on Nethys Prime, did you ever feel like you were being tested?" Jake nodded slowly. "Yeah, actually. Especially during the storms, it felt like something was throwing challenges at me to see what I would do. But I figured that was just my imagination." "What kind of challenges?" "Well, my equipment would break at the worst times. My shelter would leak during storms. My food supplies would run low just when I needed them most. But I always found ways to fix things or work around the problems." The room was completely silent. Every being present understood the significance of what Jake was describing. He had been subjected to months of divine testing and had passed every challenge, Kethmore activated a new display showing recent space monitoring data. Esteemed delegates, we have a more immediate concern. Long-range sensors detect multiple apex-level energy signatures moving through space. Vorthak is not alone. Fear rippled through the assembled aliens. Several Zephyrian counselors began making rapid clicking sounds, which Jake learned meant they were very worried. How many? Asked the Valorian general. At least 3, possibly 5. They appear to be converging on this region of space. They're coming here because of the human, the Kroger commander growled. We should hand him over to appease them, and Mayor stood up quickly. That's not happening. Wait, Jake said, raising his hand again. Maybe they're not coming to destroy anything. Luminara said apex gods are judges, right? Maybe they want to meet humanity properly. The room erupted in discussions, as different species debated what to do. Some wanted to evacuate the sector. Others suggested preparing for war. A few thought Jake might be right about peaceful contact. Cosmos floated to the center of the room. There is precedent for what the human suggests. Ancient records speak of apex conclaves, gatherings where multiple gods would meet to discuss cosmic matters, but no such gathering has occurred in over 50,000 years. Because no species has been worthy of their attention for 50,000 years, Luminara added. Until now. Jake looked around the room at all the worried faces. Look, I know I'm just one human and you all know more about this stuff than I do. But maybe instead of running away or fighting, we should try talking to them. Impossible, said the Kroger commander. No one speaks to apex gods and lives. I did, Jake said simply. For 6 months. And I'm still here. Sam smiled at his friend. Jake's right. Humans have always been good at talking their way out of trouble. Maybe it's time to put that skill to the test on a cosmic scale. The delegates looked at each other uncertainly. They were being asked to trust the survival of their civilizations to a species they had only just learned about, based on the experience of one human who collected rocks for a living. But as they looked at Jake Morrison, standing calmly in the center of their panic, many of them began to think that maybe, just maybe, humans might be exactly what the galaxy needed. News of Jake's survival spread through the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within days, every major civilization knew about the human who had lived alongside an apex god. The reactions were mixed and intense. The Zephyrian Council voted to offer humanity full membership in their trade networks, along with access to advanced technology. They saw humans as potentially valuable allies if they could really communicate with apex gods. The Valorian Empire was more cautious. Their military leaders worried that humans might be too unpredictable. A species that could survive divine attention might also be capable of challenging established galactic order. The Kroger Imperium took the darkest view. Their war council declared humans a potential threat that needed to be controlled or eliminated before they became too powerful. Back on Earth, chaos ruled the halls of government. Jake's story had reached home through Sam's military channels, and world leaders were struggling to understand what it meant for humanity's future. Admiral Rachel Foster sat in the emergency session of the Global Defense Council, trying to make sense of reports from across the galaxy. The existence of aliens had been humanity's biggest secret for the past 5 years, known only to a few high-ranking officials. Now everything was changing fast. So, you're telling me that one mining surveyor has made us the most important species in the galaxy? Asked President Martinez, looking tired and confused. That's about right, Admiral Foster replied. According to our alien contacts, Jake Morrison's survival has changed everything. The galactic community sees us as either saviors or threats. Dr. Janet Hill, Earth's leading expert on first contact protocols, shook her head in disbelief. We've been preparing for gradual contact with alien civilizations for decades. We never planned for this scenario. Meanwhile, Jake and Lisa were on a transport ship heading back to Earth. They traveled with a small diplomatic team that included Sam, Luminara, and 2 Zephyrian scientists. The ship was equipped with the most advanced communication technology in the galaxy because they needed to stay in contact with the approaching apex gods. I still can't believe this is all happening because I did my job, Jake said, looking out at the stars through the ship's observation window. Lisa sat beside him, reviewing her notes about apex god behavior. Jake, what you did wasn't just doing your job. You showed something about human nature that apparently impressed a cosmic deity. But what exactly impressed him? I just collected rocks and tried not to die. Luminara floated over to join their conversation. That is precisely what was remarkable. Most species, when faced with overwhelming challenge, respond with either fight or flight. Humans appear to have developed a third response: continue working. Sam joined them at the window. The psychologists back on Earth are calling it productive stubbornness. Humans have this weird ability to keep functioning under stress while still making progress toward their goals. Is that really so unusual? Jake asked. Extremely unusual, Luminara replied. Most intelligent species become paralyzed by fear when faced with forces beyond their understanding. They either flee immediately or attack desperately. You did neither. You adapted and persevered. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency alert from the ship's communication system. Captain Torres, their pilot, called for everyone to come to the bridge immediately. When they arrived, the main screen showed a display of their local star system. Several massive energy signatures were approaching Earth at incredible speed. How long until they arrive? Sam asked. Approximately 6 hours, Captain Torres replied. The Earth Defense Force is evacuating non-essential personnel from orbital stations. Jake studied the energy readings. Can we communicate with them? We're about to find out, said Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the ship's communication specialist. I'm picking up structured signals from the lead entity. It appears to be trying to establish contact. With who? Lisa asked. Dr. Rodriguez looked at Jake. With you specifically. The signal is directed at your exact location. Jake felt his stomach drop. What do I do? Luminara pulsed with concern. This is unprecedented. Apex gods do not typically initiate direct communication with individuals. Sam put his hand on Jake's shoulder. You don't have to do this. We can try to handle it through official channels. No, Jake said, surprising himself with his certainty. If Vorthak wants to talk to me specifically, then that's what we should do. Maybe he has something important to say. Dr. Rodriguez began setting up the communication equipment. I need to warn you, Jake. Apex-level communication can be overwhelming. For most beings, the sheer power of their thoughts can damage unprepared minds. But I've already talked to him before, right? During those storms on Nethys Prime? Apparently yes, though you weren't aware of it at the time, Luminara confirmed. Your mind has already adapted to his presence. You should be able to handle direct contact. The communication setup took 30 minutes. When everything was ready, Jake sat in the specially designed chair that would help focus the cosmic-level signals. Lisa, Sam, and the others monitored his vital signs from a safe distance. Whenever you're ready, Dr. Rodriguez said. Jake took a deep breath. Okay, let's do this. The communication link activated, and suddenly Jake's mind was filled with a presence, vast beyond imagination. It felt like standing at the edge of an infinite ocean of consciousness. But instead of fear, Jake felt oddly calm. The presence was familiar somehow. Greetings, small persistent one, came a voice that resonated through Jake's entire being. I am Vorthak, and I bring greetings from the Apex Conclave. Hello, Jake said aloud so the others could hear his side of the conversation. It's good to hear from you again, I think. You amuse me, human Jake Morrison. Even now, faced with divine attention, you remain remarkably calm. This is why the Conclave wishes to speak with your species. The Conclave? 5 apex gods travel toward your world. We have not gathered in 50 millennia, but your survival has raised questions that require answers. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What kind of questions? Questions about worthiness, about balance, about whether humanity represents evolution or extinction for the galaxy. The communication lasted for over an hour. Jake learned that apex gods had been watching galactic development for millions of years, occasionally intervening when species became too destructive or too stagnant. Humanity's rapid technological advancement combined with their apparent resilience had caught their attention. But not all of the approaching apex gods were as favorable toward humanity as Vorthak. Some saw humans as potentially dangerous. Others viewed them as primitives who had gotten lucky. The Conclave would judge humanity based on their interaction with Jake and the other humans they would meet. The future of human expansion into the galaxy depended on the outcome of these conversations. When the communication ended, Jake slumped back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. "What did he say?" Lisa asked anxiously. Jake looked around at his friends and the alien allies who had become so important to him. He said, "We're about to have the most important job interview in human history, and apparently, I'm the guy who has to make the first impression." The first interstellar diplomatic complex on Earth was built in record time. Located in neutral waters in the Pacific Ocean, the floating platform was large enough to host beings from dozens of different worlds. It had taken the combined efforts of every major Earth government and several alien construction teams to complete it in just 2 weeks. Jake stood on the observation deck, watching as massive ships arrived from across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Council had sent their finest diplomats. The Valorian Empire brought their most experienced negotiators. Even species that had never worked together before were putting aside their differences to witness this historic moment. But all of them were secondary to the main event. 5 energy signatures of unimaginable power were approaching Earth's solar system, moving slowly enough to give everyone time to prepare. Admiral Foster joined Jake at the railing. "Nervous? Terrified," Jake admitted. "6 months ago, I was just a guy who looked at rocks. Now I'm supposed to represent all of humanity to cosmic gods." "You're not alone in this," Admiral Foster said. "We've assembled the best team we can. Lisa will be your primary advisor on alien cultures. Sam knows your background better than anyone, and we have experts in every field standing by." Jake nodded, but he still felt the weight of responsibility. Through the communication sessions with Vorthak, he had learned more about what was at stake. The apex gods weren't just deciding humanity's fate. They were evaluating whether humans could serve as bridges between different species in the galaxy. Many civilizations had grown too specialized or too isolated to work effectively with others. The Valorians were brilliant engineers, but terrible at understanding emotion. The Zephyrians were natural diplomats, but struggled with practical problem-solving. The ethereal collective could see cosmic patterns, but often missed individual concerns. Humans, according to Vorthak, had developed a rare combination of traits: persistence under pressure, adaptability to new situations, and the ability to find common ground with very different types of beings. Dr. Lisa Warren approached them, carrying a tablet full of last-minute briefing notes. "Jake, the first apex god just entered our solar system. It's not Vorthak." "Who is it?" "Something called Nethys the Starshaper. According to the ancient records, she's one of the more skeptical members of the Conclave. She doesn't think humans are ready for galactic responsibility." Sam joined their group. "The good news is that our communication equipment is working perfectly. The bad news is that Nethys wants to conduct her own tests before the formal meeting." "What kind of tests?" Jake asked, though he was pretty sure he didn't want to know the answer. Before anyone could respond, reality around them began to shift. The ocean platform, the ships, even the sky itself started to ripple like water. Jake felt the familiar sensation of overwhelming presence that he remembered from Nethys Prime. "Human Jake Morrison," came a voice that sounded like the birth of stars. "I am Nethys the Starshaper. Your companion Vorthak speaks highly of your species, but I must judge for myself." The platform and everyone on it were suddenly transported to what looked like the surface of an impossible world. The ground was made of crystallized starlight, and 3 different suns hung in a purple sky. Jake realized that Nethys had created this place just for their meeting. "This is incredible," Jake said, looking around at the surreal landscape. "Did you make all of this?" "A simple matter. Reality is merely a suggestion to beings of our level. But you, small humans, seem remarkably untroubled by impossible things." Jake shrugged. "I've learned to take things as they come. Fighting against stuff I can't change just wastes energy." "Indeed. Vorthak mentioned this trait. Tell me, Jake Morrison, what would you do if I told you that your species must choose between remaining on your small world forever or spreading across the galaxy but losing your current nature? Jake thought carefully. He knew this wasn't just a theoretical question. Well, first I'd want to know what you mean by losing our nature. If you mean we'd have to stop being human, then staying on Earth might be better. But if you mean we'd have to grow and change as we meet new challenges, then that's just part of exploring. And if spreading across the galaxy meant your species would eventually surpass even the apex gods in power, then I'd hope we'd remember where we came from and try to be worthy of that power. Nethys was quiet for a long moment. Around them, the crystalline landscape shifted and changed, reflecting her thoughts. Your companion Luminara was correct. Humans do possess unusual wisdom. You think not in absolutes but in balances. Over the next several hours, Jake was tested by each of the 5 apex gods in turn. Korthon the Void Walker challenged his problem-solving abilities by presenting impossible puzzles that Jake solved through creative thinking rather than raw intelligence. Zephys the Lifebinder tested his compassion by showing him scenarios where he had to choose between competing needs, and Jake consistently found ways to help everyone involved. Tyraxes the Time Weaver examined his understanding of consequences by showing him potential futures where humanity's choices led to different outcomes. Finally, Vorthak himself appeared, and Jake felt like he was greeting an old friend. You have done well, Persistent One. The Conclave is impressed with your species' potential, but we must now speak with more of your kind. The impossible world dissolved, and Jake found himself back on the diplomatic platform. But now he wasn't alone. Somehow the apex gods had gathered representatives from across humanity. Scientists, artists, teachers, farmers, engineers, and leaders from every continent and walk of life. The conversations that followed lasted for 3 days. The apex gods spoke with hundreds of humans, testing not just their individual qualities but how they work together. They observed human creativity, stubbornness, empathy, and innovation. At the end of the 3rd day, the 5 apex gods made their decision. Humanity will be granted full galactic citizenship, Vorthak announced to the assembled crowd. But more than that, your species will serve as cosmic balance mediators, helping to bridge differences between other civilizations. This is a responsibility, not given lightly, added Nethys. You will be called upon to solve problems that have existed for millennia, to find compromises where others see only conflict. Jake raised his hand. What if we're not good at it? What if we make mistakes? Vorthak's amusement rippled through the air. Making mistakes is part of learning. Your species' greatest strength is not that you never fail, but that you always keep trying to do better. The formal ceremony establishing the Terran Apex Accords took place a week later. Jake found himself appointed as the first human cosmic balance mediator, though he insisted that he couldn't do the job alone. Lisa became director of the new Institute for Apex Studies. Sam was promoted to head Earth's new Interstellar Defense Coordination. As Jake stood on the platform, watching alien ships from across the galaxy arriving to establish embassies on Earth, he thought about how much had changed since that day he walked through a security scanner. Still think you're just a guy who looks at rocks? Lisa asked, joining him at the railing. Jake smiled. Well, now I'm a guy who looks at rocks and occasionally talks to cosmic gods. But yeah, basically the same job, just with a bigger area to survey. Sam laughed. Leave it to Jake to treat becoming a cosmic mediator like it's just another work assignment. And in a way, that was exactly what made humans special. They could face the impossible and treat it like just another problem, to solve one day at a time. The scanner at Zephyrian Trade Station would never malfunction like that again, but it had served its purpose. It had announced to the galaxy that something new had arrived. A species that could survive anything, adapt to everything, and never stop working toward a better tomorrow. Jake Morrison, former mining surveyor, current cosmic balance mediator, was already planning his next mission. Apparently there was a diplomatic crisis brewing in the Andromeda galaxy, and the apex gods thought a human perspective might help. It was going to be interesting work.